Hi, I'm Esther Kane with SeniorSafetyAdvice.com, and today I want to talk to you guys about a topic most people don't want to talk about: hospice. I know, you're probably thinking, hospice, that's like for the last few days of your life. Well, I'm here to tell you that that is very wrong. There is so much that hospice can do for you and your senior loved one for quite a long time before they pass away. So I wanted to do a video on how hospice could help you. So let's get to it. But I'm going to start with why I even decided to do a video on this topic. A few months ago, I joined a Facebook group for caregivers. I thought that my expertise as an occupational therapist working in geriatrics could, help the caregivers, that are posting in that Facebook group. And then I also thought it would give me some other ideas of what kind of information to put on our website to help not only the caregivers, but seniors as well. So as I'm reading these posts every day, the general theme that I'm getting from this Facebook group is that the caregivers are angry and they're frustrated and they're lonely. And I mean, if you've ever been a caregiver for an elderly person, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, who can blame them? They have every right to feel that way. It can be extremely difficult to care for an elderly person, especially if you don't have any support from family, friends. And a lot of these caregivers in that Facebook group are in that situation. And on top of that, what if the person that you're caring for you may not necessarily like? I know, they're your parent or your grandparent or, another senior loved one. You love them, of course, but you don't necessarily like them. And vice versa. They may not like you either. In fact, there's quite a few commentaries and posts on that Facebook group about people in that very situation where they're taking care of parents that they haven't gotten along with in a long time. There's all this built up resentment and anger, and well, every family has their drama, but these are severe and they can be expounded sometimes when someone is ill and you are basically stuck taking care of them. So yeah, who can blame the anger and frustration that a lot of these caregivers feel? So I got to thinking as I'm reading these posts over, and it seems like at some point, it seems like a lot of these posts seem repetitive because people are complaining about the same thing, even though they're different people. But it got me thinking, why aren't these people using hospice? But then I remembered, oh, well, when I was an OT, I would say, 60% of our therapy was really for the family, not so much for the patient, only because the patient's illness was usually progressive, it was going to keep getting worse. I dealt with a lot of patients that had dementia and Alzheimer's and, severe strokes. And the families were the ones who were kind of left a little bit out of the loop. And they needed to understand what was going to be happening, what was coming down the pike. But understanding that, knowing that all that is coming, and accepting all of that are two very different things. So yeah, we did a lot of therapy for the families. And this is the same thing. When you talk about hospice, a lot of people have the notion it's for end of life. And it is for end of life, but it doesn't mean this moment is the end of your life. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I wanted to talk about why, I want to talk about how my mother got into hospice. And I think by telling you that story, I think it'll help you to have a clearer picture of what someone on hospice can look like. My mother was in the hospital for a series of vague problems that seemed to come and go. And basically what they ended up being a lot were panic attacks due to her illness, her medical condition. But my mother refused to believe that they were panic attacks. She was convinced that she was always having a heart attack. And if you've ever had a panic attack, you know that it feels like a heart attack, or it can feel like a heart attack. So I totally believe that my mother felt that pain, and I can understand her anxiety. But time after time, visit after visit to the hospital, being told the same thing, she still would refuse to believe it. Anyway, my mother was in the hospital for a week, the last time she was in the hospital. And my sister and I had yet to be able to meet with the doctor because, they come in really early and you never see them again. So it was getting really ridiculous trying to set up a meeting with the medical staff, and the nurses weren't helpful. Yeah, it was a bad hospital, but that's a whole nother story. But anyway, I was talking with a good friend of mine who had worked in hospice, and she said, well, why don't you just get a hospice evaluation? It doesn't cost you anything, and what will happen is that the hospice nurse will gather all the information that's there at the hospital from the doctors, from the nurses, whatever, and then present it to you in one nice little conversation. So we thought, great, that could be our person. So we asked the doctor and we asked the hospital for an evaluation from hospice, and they said, oh no, absolutely not. The doctor was insistent that my mother didn't need hospice. Well, we didn't think she needed hospice either, but we wanted that evaluation. So we insisted on it. We got the evaluation, and my mother qualified for hospice. We were all like, what? I mean, she was extremely independent, and still was in the hospital, took care of herself. She drove, she cleaned, she cooked, she did everything, paid her bills, did absolutely everything. She certainly didn't seem like somebody who would qualify for hospice. But why did she qualify? Because she had a pulmonary disease that we didn't know about, and she had a cardiac issue that we didn't know about. So both of these conditions will continue to progress, causing her to decline in function. For that reason, she was accepted into hospice. Anyway, that's how my mother got into hospice. And after that, there were no more hospital visits. There were no more midnight runs to the ER. No more running to this doctor and that doctor, and this one doesn't know what he's talking about, and finding another doctor, and on and on. And the reason for that was because we had hospice nurses, the hospice social worker, on call basically 24/7. The nurses for sure, on call 24/7. You could call them at any time with any question about anything. And it was very comforting. I think it made my mother feel really good. Not to say that she accepted hospice right away. She didn't. We'll talk a little bit about that later, but once she did, it was a godsend. That's all I can tell you. Hospice was there to deliver medication and oxygen and shower chairs and basically whatever we needed. It just seemed like they were able to provide it. Now, and in our case, it was all entirely paid for by Medicare. I know that every hospice is different. It's run very different, and there are, little rules that are different in each one. So I would urge you to contact your local hospice to find out what they pay for and what they provide, and etc. But the point is that the hospice program that we got for our mother wasn't just for her. It was really for us as well, because the social workers and the nurses were there to speak to us and to help us learn to deal with what was happening with our mother. And also, my mother was extremely difficult, very stubborn, very independent. She didn't want anybody to do anything for her, and we needed to learn to deal with that. Plus the fact we hadn't lived with our mother for many, many years. So, being there with her on a daily basis. And I moved in with her for several months, so that wasn't easy either. But the nurses at hospice definitely helped us through it. Without them, I don't know that we would have done it as well as it turned out to be. So anyway, I wanted to go over a few of the benefits about hospice and how it may be able to alleviate some of the burden that most caregivers feel that they have and that they truly do have, especially the ones who have little to no support. All right, I think there's 8. I think I listed 8 of them. So number 1, the goal of hospice is to provide palliative care, which basically means providing care for someone with a serious illness. Now, as I said before, every hospice program is run a bit differently. It's my understanding that some hospice programs are now accepting patients who are not necessarily terminal, meaning they have 6 months left to live or less, but that they have a condition that will cause them to continually decline. This would include things like strokes and dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and much more. I mean, in my mother's case, it was the pulmonary fibrosis and the cardiac issues. So I would urge you to contact your local hospice programs to talk to them about what services they provide, what they pay for, etc. Number 2, you can go in and out of hospice. It's not as if once you're signed in, that's it, you're there, you're locked in. You can leave the hospice at any time, and then if you're still qualified, you can come right back in. Even if it's a day or 2 later, that's how it was explained to us with my mother. Number 3, hospice evaluates you every 6 months. Although I believe while I was doing research for this that I saw some said 3 months, but I could be wrong. Again, check with your local hospice. Point is, they reevaluate you every several months. The nurse who took care of my mother told us that she has had patients that she was taking care of patients for up to 3 years. As long as they keep requalifying, then they continue to stay on hospice. Again, everyone is different, so check. Number 4, most hospice programs have volunteers. Now, we didn't use these volunteers because my mother was very adamant about not having strangers in her house. It was enough to get the nurse and social worker and all of them to come in. But these volunteers are there, which is amazing because they're really there more for the caregiver. So it doesn't matter if you need to go get your hair done, want to go to a movie with friends, or just need to get out and go for a walk and I can't leave your elderly loved one alone. That's what the volunteers are for. And it's really a wonderful, wonderful service. Again, all covered under hospice, which is amazing. Well, provided under hospice. Shouldn't say covered because everyone is different, but provided by hospice. Number 5, you have access to a nurse 24/7, as I said before. So if your elderly parent is ill during the night, you can definitely get a hold of someone. You have a contact number to call. They will contact the nurse on call, who will then call you right back. I never waited more than 10 minutes for a phone call to come back, no matter what time of day or night it was. And that was very comforting to know that a nurse, could tell you what to do, medication, or how to calm the person down, anything at all. It was great, actually. That was a wonderful aspect. Number 6, medications and medical equipment are delivered to you, which was amazing. All I had to do was pick up the phone and say, hey, looks like we're running out of this particular medication. I get it sometimes that very day or the next morning. It was great. During the last month or so, my mother was on oxygen, and those oxygen tanks came as soon as I called them. And she needed a shower chair in her last month, and that just showed up. It was really great. And honestly, there could have been more equipment that we could have used if my mother had been more debilitated, but she wasn't. I mean, she was still extreme the entire time she was on hospice, except for the last 2 days, the entire, time, which was months. I mean, she was cooking and cleaning and grocery shopping and driving and paying her bills and everything. If you saw her, you would never ever guess that this person was on hospice. That is what a hospice patient can look like. Okay, number 7. Oh, wait, back to the medications. I just want you to know that not all medications are covered by hospice. They don't generally cover medications that are not related to the illness that the person qualified for in order to get into the program. So my mother had dry eye syndrome and she used prescription eye drops. So that was something that wasn't covered. So for that, I still had to go to the drugstore to get that for her. Okay, number 7. Emotional support is there for you by clergy, through hospice, by the nurses, by social worker. And I don't know any caregiver who would not benefit from the emotional support that is so desperately needed when you're taking care of an elderly loved one, especially one if they're combative, mean, angry, or if they have dementia and Alzheimer's and they're very demanding of your time and your energy and your emotions. So I thought that's a wonderful service as well, just for that alone sometimes. Last, number 8, there are aides available who can provide services like bathing your loved one. And this is very helpful if the person has had a severe stroke, they're not able to use one side of their body, or their dementia or Alzheimer's is to the point where they're not able to follow directions, or their size is so large that one person simply can't manage bathing them correctly, or if they're bedbound and you can't possibly get them up. Maybe they don't have any trunk control, or again, can't follow directions. So having somebody there who can either do it for you and or help you is a great benefit. I do understand that presenting the idea of hospice to someone is not going to be easy. It wasn't easy for my mother. She fought it at the very beginning. As soon as we were told at the hospital that she qualified for hospice, she did not want anything to do with it and said, everybody was wrong. She didn't sign the papers right away. It took her a few days to wrap her head around it. But eventually, I think it must have been a week, I think she finally went ahead and signed. But during that time, the social workers and the nurses from hospice, we were talking with them and they were helping us with the language of what we could use to help our mother get through this time to the point of, accepting what was happening. So it was the very best decision that we made as a family, not just for us caregivers, but for my mother as well. She always wanted to pass away at home, and hospice allowed us to do that for her. So if you're a caregiver that is struggling with caring for an elderly loved one, just consider calling your local hospice program just to see what they could offer you, how they could help you, because you never know. Help is right there, and if it's paid for by Medicare, that would help you even more. I know there are several caregivers in the Facebook group who are struggling. They had to quit their jobs, they had to move in order to care for their elderly loved ones. So I know that they're struggling financially for some of these services, and a lot of times that's why they can't hire a private aide. So if you can get help into the home for your elderly loved one through hospice, why not? Give them a call. All right, subscribe to our channel. We would love for you to do that. We put out a new video every single week, and we hope that the videos are helpful for you. Give us your comments. Tell us what you think. Tell me what your experiences have been with hospice. Good, bad, whatever. And if you have any ideas on other videos, let us know. We'll be happy to comply. All right. Have a great night. Take care. It's night. It's late. Bye.